Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Carla if you're new here, and I make videos about how I show up for myself in hopes of inspiring you to do the same. By showing up for myself, I transform my entire life, overcome negative self-talk, life-limiting beliefs, and eventually lost over half my body weight. And if that's the kind of thing that you are interested in, please make sure you smash that subscribe button, turn on the notifications so you never miss a video. In today's video, we're shaking it up a bit. We're going to be talking about love and relationships. This is a big part of personal development as well, and the connection to other people, but it's also the anniversary, mine and my partner's 10-year anniversary this month. And so I opened the question box here on Instagram, here on YouTube and on Instagram. And my gosh, did you guys have some questions? As always, you always bring the questions, so I appreciate that. Vincent is not going to sit down and do the questions with me. That's not really his bag. So we have gone through a couple of them. He did give some answers. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first question that everybody wanted to know, them obviously, is how did we meet? My dad had passed away in the March of 2014. And I had been a carer for him for a long time, and I lived at home with him and my mum, and he was quite old when he passed away. He was nearly 91. Yes, he's my birth father, and same mother, all same family. Just there's quite a distance between, an age gap between myself and my siblings. But anyway, he passed away that March, and I think after he passed, I had spent so much time with him and caring for him, and in other ways as well, maybe using that as an excuse that I had never met anybody. And while his passing was incredibly painful, it was also, there was a big void in my life that was missing, of time that I had spent taking care of him. And it was the first time in my life that I was genuinely happy being alone. I had never had a proper serious relationship before this point. I had one relationship, if you can call it that. It lasted a couple of months, and it was a disaster. Looking back on it now as an adult, I was like, no, that was not good. But I had many situationships and things that would last for years, but they never developed into a full, long-term committed relationship. And it's a lot to do with how I valued myself and how I allowed myself to be valued with other people. And then on the 13th of June, myself and my friends went out on a Friday night. It was Friday the 13th. It was the full moon. It was a blue moon or harvest moon or super moon, one of those. And I don't drink anymore, but I didn't tend to drink on a full moon because I just found that it messed up with all of us, especially with certain friends. There would be a vibe, not a good vibe between us. Somehow I managed to end up going out drinking that night. I was sitting there talking to a friend of mine, Ali, and we were in the smoking area of Faith Street, or No Name and Snail, whatever you call it. And she was asking me, am I seeing anybody? And I was like, do you know what? I'm not. I had ended every one of the situationships. I hadn't been with anybody. I had no interest in anything. And I said, you know what? I'm actually just really happy being by myself. I don't want to go out with anybody. I don't want any of those more situations. We left Faith Street and we went to Brussels, where I drank for every single day of my life, basically. Brussels is it's a rocker bar. And we all went there after Faith Street, and we went in, and I knew most of the people that drank there regularly. Dublin is a small town and the metal community is smaller. So when we arrived in, I looked and I saw somebody and I felt my whole world shift. That's the only way I can describe it. It was as if the whole world just twisted or turned or something changed. And that was Vincent. And I didn't speak to him at that point. To give you an idea of where my mental health was and my relationship towards men, I was like, ooh, new meat when I saw him. Vincent is, in my opinion, an incredibly attractive, very tall, dark, tall, handsome, beautiful man. And I was instantly attracted to him, but I didn't think much of it. And then I went upstairs, we were with our friends smoking, and they were just driving me mad. You know, and just that night where like everyone is pissed and you just want to go home. I was like, I am done finishing the cigarette, back when I smoked, finishing this drink, and I'm going home. And up came Vincent, up from the bar into the smoking area. And my friend Barry turned to him and said, oh, you seem lost. What's your name? And they introduced themselves, and then he introduced himself to me. And at that point, that was it. There was something there. It wasn't love at first sight, but there was a cosmic shift, which I also don't believe in, but there was just as if like energies aligned and just went, okay, something feels different here. And we spoke for 20 minutes. He was headed to Hellfest, which is a metal festival in France, the next day. And he asked me, would I like to go for a glass of wine when he came back? And I said yes, and I gave him my phone number. And that night, I think, or the next morning, he texted me and he called me tough girl because I had just finished my back piece, and I was like all covered in cling film still, and he called me tough girl, and he said it'd be nice to take you out for a glass of wine when I come back. And then 2 weeks went by and I heard nothing from him. Nothing. But I was like, you know what, it's so weird. I felt like there was something there. I was like, this is so strange, because in my gut I felt like this was different, that this was a different situation. And I decided, you know what, maybe I am ready to meet somebody. So I signed up to Tinder. First time in my life. This was 10 years ago. Tinder was different back then. It was, well, I don't know. Anyway, I signed up, matched with a few people, arranged to go on a date with some guy. And I arranged to go on a date with him the Friday night. Was getting dressed, walking out the door, and some French man texted me and said he was sorry that he had just returned from France and would I like to go for that glass of wine the next night. And I said yes. So I dated the other guy. I went on the date with the other guy and actually got on really well with him. We had a really good date, and then I met Vincent the next day, and that was it. That's how we sat outside smoking, having 2 bottles of wine in a wine bar in Dublin. And he actually asked me, was I famous at the start? Because where we used to drink in Brussels, Dublin is really small. There's a pub called the Foggy and there's a pub called Brussels, and people would leave the Foggy and head to Brussels for the end of the night. So they would start in the Foggy and end in Brussels. And where we were drinking, the wine bar was in between the two. And I basically met everybody I knew that night, even people who weren't going to Brussels. I knew so many people. I think we met about 30 people that night. He honestly was like, are you famous? Like, what's going on? I was like, no, I just happen to know people that drink. From that point on, that was basically it. And we were together then from like 2 or 3 weeks after that. And the rest is history. I went on one more date with that other guy just because I had agreed to go on that date, and then we both ended up ghosting each other anyway, which was funny because I was going to end it because I was crazy by Vincent. And what was different, there was so much different about him than anybody else I'd ever dated, but he rang me to arrange the next date. The next date, back when I was pescatarian, he special ordered this lobster dish in an Italian place in Dublin, and he met me and we went and we had that, and then he said he didn't want to wait a week to meet me again, and we went for a meal, we went to the cinema, and we were just started dating, and we moved in together. Then that was June. We moved in together unofficially in that October, and then officially in the December. And 10 years later, about 13,000 houses, 1 child, 2 furry babies, about 300 pounds lost between the two of us. We're here. What's your favourite thing about Carla? And Carla, what's your favourite thing about Vincent? So I did ask Vincent this, and he said that his favourite thing about me is my energy and my empathy, which I thought was lovely. He saw in me something that I never saw. He saw in me something that I didn't know was there before. And my favourite thing about him is his kindness, which is interesting. They're both very similar. his kindness, his patience, his understanding, him just the way he is with people and with the world, and he sees things in a very different way than anybody I've ever met before, which can sometimes be very frustrating. The majority of the time is absolutely wonderful. Then I didn't write down who wrote these, but did Carla's weight loss and focus on health strengthen your relationship, or did it feel alienating at first? My husband and I have different health goals, and trying to balance both can be challenging. Vincent actually decided to lose weight prior to me. He was vocal about losing weight prior to me. I had my realisation in July. I then decided and signed up for Body Slims in October, but didn't begin it until the end of January. And Vincent began losing weight at the start of January. We decided together, almost kind of together but independently, that we wanted to improve our health. We didn't know exactly what that was going to look like. So we technically had different goals. Vincent was working out as well as losing weight, so he was doing training at home because of COVID, and I wasn't doing any training. We had previously gone to the gym together a lot, but I wasn't doing any training. I wanted to do Body Slims 100%, and he wasn't doing Body Slims. He just kind of ate along with what I was eating and maybe a bit more. And he didn't count calories. Of course, as with most men, the weight just shifts off them, which is incredibly frustrating for us women. But he actually reached his goal weight long before I did. I'll put a picture of him here. I think I was 100 pounds down when he reached his goal weight, and it was too low. It was too low for him. I think when you both have different goals, different health goals, it's important to be open and respectful of each other's goals and support each other as much as you can. And even if you don't agree with what one person is doing, the best thing that you can do is support them and be there. And if you've ever done Body Slims as well, you'll know that Jared says always to lead by example and to be the inspiration. People change for inspiration or desperation. And I find that just doing you while being respectful to your partner or to your friends will ultimately end in a positive outcome. Vincent has influenced me in many ways with his health goals, and I have with his. What was your first impression of each other when you met? My first impression of him was new meat. I know it's terrible, but that was what my first impression of him was new meat. And then just tall, dark and handsome. I just thought he was cool. And it was funny because I was running a charity, which is a subsidiary of a French charity, when I met him, and France just kind of continuously appears in my life, and it was just like, of course you're French. Well, he's from Brittany, so he's Breton, and his first impression of me was tough girl. He called me tough girl. The minute we met, I was very offensive. He said when he saw me first, I was in that bad mood because I didn't want to be there and I wanted to leave, and my friends were annoying the piss out of me, and one wanted to go dancing on her own, and everyone's like, we can't. And I'm like, she's a big girl, let her go dancing on her own. Let her go. And I was doing that like, oh, I don't face. And then I laughed, and he said that when he saw me laugh and smile, it all just, he saw through. And that's when he kind of approached, and that's when it kind of changed that opinion for him. But the first thing he thought was tough girl. And then the same person asked, and what do you admire most about each other now after 10 years? And what I admire most about Vincent most is still the same thing. Is still the way he is, his kindness and his empathy and his understanding. But in so many other situations now and in so many other ways, he is the most wonderful father. I am so lucky to have found a man who makes the most incredible dad. He loves our son so much, and he is so kind and caring and patient. I think it's his patience is something that I don't have, that Vincent has, is patience, and I think we balance each other out well. And when I asked him what did he admire most about me after 10 years, he said that he admired my entire journey, and that what was the word he used? Not my drive, my will. My will to keep going, to keep doing, to continue and to change and to constantly be the best version that I am. That's what he said, so that's very nice. 3 concerts and music outgoings that you've been to together. You both look so chic. Thank you very much. We had trouble. We think we've been to loads of gigs, and then when we tried to figure them out, what we've actually been to, we struggled. But the first Robert Plant gig that we went to together, when he was with this A Strange Sensation in the Olympia, was the best. It was just, that was mind-blowing. I also personally love the one that he did with Saving Grace with Susie Dion in the Helix. That was also brilliant. But the first time we saw him with A Strange Sensation was just, that was like face melting good. I'll insert a picture of us. I don't think we have one at the gig. We have one like the day after. And then, or the night of. And then Bad Company. Bad Company were just unbelievable. Bad Company are a band where you wouldn't know, unless you looked closely, you couldn't tell that they were 50 years on from where they started, because their performance, their way of being, their, like Paul's singing, everything, their playing, their energy was just phenomenal. It was a smaller crowd. We weren't expecting it to be as big. And they were brilliant, because Richie Sambora opened for them, and I am like a long-term Bon Jovi diehard fan, and he was appalling and most likely drunk, and it was quite sad to watch. And we were like, oh no, this is not going to be good if this is the state of the level. And then Bad Company came on, and my God, like, it was unbelievable. And then I'd say Rammstein, actually, the other night, like this week, was just phenomenal. Rammstein always put on a good gig, and I love getting dressed up. And all of the Wasps. I love going to Wasp. We've seen Wasp together probably 5-6 times, but the last Wasp gig in the Dublin Stadium, is that what it's called? Somebody will correct me, I'm sure. It was just phenomenal. It's the 40th anniversary, so I'd say those 4 are the top. Probably the Wasp over the Rammstein, give or take. What is the secret to your great relationship? Any communication or awareness or living tips? And we discussed this a lot this morning when I was kind of planning my day of filming. One of the things that I thought was really interesting that Vincent said is that we plan together for the future, so we see each other. When we make future plans, both in the long term and in the next week, we are considerate of each other and what the other person wants. And we see each other, we see our relationship as an entity. And I think the most important thing is that these are all important. Communication, speaking to each other, and respect for each other. And when I mean respect for each other, is that I will never badmouth Vincent to anybody, and vice versa. I am protective of him and care about him, and I respect him, and I don't do, and he has never done that thing where we go to friends and we give out about them. We might give out about a situation, we might, ask for advice, but we never badmouth the other person. And we're always respectful of the other person constantly. And when we have disagreements, when we have fights, we are respectful of ourselves, but we always put the relationship above our own egos. We don't need to win the argument. There is no winning. We don't see it like that. That's an ego thing. We want to ensure that we can be true to ourselves, but we put the relationship ahead of our egos or our need to win or our need to be right. It doesn't matter. What matters in the long run is we see our relationship as almost as an entity that is to be protected and to be nurtured. And so with respect and open communication and speaking to each other and airing, if we have an issue with the other person, we go to the other person. We don't go to an external source. We speak to the other person, and not with shame, not with a tone, And these are not things that we've learned overnight. We've been together for 10 years and we've had to work on these and find ways of working together for the longevity of our relationship. But we will always treat each other with that respect and that gratitude towards each other, and never take each other for granted. Always ensure that the other knows how we feel at that moment and about them. So I will always try to make sure that Vincent knows how I feel about him and knows how much I love him, and say thank you to him if he does something for me, and finding a way to work together. When I watch shows, like obviously the shows like Love Island and things like that are completely dramatized to, they're younger people. There is an idea of a way a relationship should be and an expectation. And in our relationship, I've learned that expectations only lead to disappointment. I don't expect anything of Vincent. I don't think he should do anything. I am grateful for the things he does, but I don't have that expectation of, or that like, if he's, I'm trying to think of a situation, like if you have a disagreement, we don't scream at each other. We've never, we might raise our voices, but we never scream at each other, we never swear at each other. We always, even if we're having a disagreement, we will try and always speak. And if we can't at that point, we'll take a break and we'll walk away. And hormones times a month, I get pissed, he gets stressed, things happen. But if we can't resolve it, if we can't come back down again, we will take a minute. We'll never go to bed on an argument. It's not even a thing. We just don't. We resolve them fairly quickly by being respectful to us, but also ensuring that our ego is down. I used to get really worked up if the kitchen wasn't perfectly clean. And then I had to look at that is my thing. That's not his. And I can't expect him to change and to want to clean the kitchen or know magically that that's the way I want it to be and be perfect. And that's an expectation that is unimportant in the grand scheme of things. When we look at the bigger picture, does it matter that there's food on the table? No. Does it matter that there's a plate in the sink? Does it matter that the toilet seat's up? No. Does it matter? If it's important to me, then I'll do it. If I need help with it, I'll ask for the help. I won't expect him to know to do it by magic. And I think that not having these expectations and not comparing our relationship and not comparing anybody else, like, oh, we wouldn't do it that way. That's good because you're different people. And I see those shows and I see people trying to, creating these narratives. I'm like, guys, roll it back. What's the big picture here? Does it matter? Does it matter? Say if I said something that he doesn't think is funny, he's not going to hold it against me. It's just being a little bit more realistic, and I suppose with maturity as well. How tall is Vincent? He is 6'5", 6'3" or 6'5". Very tall. Very, very tall. Actually, I don't see him as that tall anymore, but every time we meet people are like, he's so tall. He's very tall. Is our son bilingual? Yes, he is bilingual. Vincent speaks to him in French and I speak to him in English. He has very few words. 90% of them are English, which is because we live in an English-speaking country. But hopefully having that foundation and having the ear to French will develop as he gets older, and we will hopefully have him in French lessons or like French summer camps and that kind of thing. Do we have any travel plans? No, we don't. We are going away for business twice. We're going to Manchester and London, and that's it. And Barcelona, I think. That's it. None of those are set in stone yet. And then what is our dream vacation? Obviously, just because with our current situation with finances and things like that, we can't afford to go on a holiday, unfortunately. We did go to Malta for a few days to see my best friend and to spend time with her, but other than that, we don't have any holidays planned. I would love a holiday. honestly, I would really like a holiday right now. But holidays with 2-year-olds are not really holidays, are they? You just move all the crap you have to do to another country. But we might go for like a night away somewhere. And what is our dream vacation? And we both said no time restricted exploration of different cultures and different food, and just travel and wander. And we love to just go somewhere and just wander around and just see what happens and eat some delicious food and listen to some music and meet some people and have conversations and see art and just wander and just keep going and see what happens. That's our dream vacation. I'd also love to go back to Disney. I'd love to go to Disney, California. I'd love to go to California, and we were supposed to do a Deep South road trip in 2016, but it was working out too expensive, and that is something I would like to do as well. Many date nights revolve around food and drinks. What alternatives have you both found that you enjoy? We like to do an activity. So we've gone to art gallery openings or exhibits that have been on either during the day, or sometimes in Dublin there's Gallery X. It's a kind of darker art gallery, and we've gone to like the opening nights of those as a date, and maybe we go for dinner first. I know that's revolving around food. We also go bouldering, so go climbing. We do a lot of things together as a family as well, but we love to just like go to the country and go for a walk or just spend time together. It's not like we don't feel like we have to do an activity every time. Obviously gigs, we don't drink. So when we go to a gig, we don't drink at the gig. We go to the gig. We got chips the other night when we went to the gig, and that's because we were starving because we didn't get a chance to eat beforehand. But that's pretty much like all the things that we do. What do you think is the most important thing in a relationship to continuously keep the love and understanding in each other? Is communication. You have to communicate with the other person and be honest and vulnerable about how you're feeling, and reducing your barriers down. And that took me years of doing, to reduce the barriers down and to let him really in and to let him really see me, and to be patient with each other and understand. And we don't ever see like what we can get out of the other person. It's not like a one-upmanship. It's always, or what the benefit is to having them. It's that I think one of the biggest things, the most important things is that we see each other as partners, that we are equal partners in a relationship, that we are one of the same. That's something that's really important to us and has really stood for us for the test of the last 10 years. How do you keep time for each other when life is so busy? You gotta book it in. You gotta schedule it. It's not romantic, but it has to be done. At least every 2 weeks. Book an evening, a day, something. Book it in together and check in with each other. How are you doing? Just like 5 minutes before bed even, just sit down, look at each other, eye contact, nothing else. How you doing? In the morning, how you feeling? What's going on? What's your week like? There is something that we did for a while, which is like, I might do that in another video. It's like a meeting that you do once a week. We don't do it all the time, but when we do it, it does actually really benefit us. And the final question, because I'm running out of battery, is how do you feel your relationship has changed since you had Brannock? There's less time is the first thing. And I think we understand and appreciate the small moments, being present with our family, not doing the big things. It's the little things, like going to the park with him, getting a coffee on a Saturday morning, going to the market and getting bread and seeing him interact, and doing things together as a family and getting to see things through his eyes for the first time is wonderful. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please leave me love hearts of your choice, and if you have in the comments, if you have any other questions, leave them down as well. I will love you and leave you. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you want a part 2 of this. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.